Monday, everybody. I hope that you had a good weekend and that you're having a good morning so far. Um, Hopefully, you had a better weekend than I did. Um, Not that I didn't enjoy my weekend, I did. I spent the weekend with my daughter, which, by the way, I want to say happy birthday to my daughter. She's 7 years old today, and I don't know where the time goes. It's so It just goes by so fast. So if you have young kids, make sure that you spend plenty of time with them because before you know it, they're going to be grown up and they're not going to want to spend time with you anymore because that's just what happens when kids grow up. They don't want to spend time with their parents as much. Anyway, so happy birthday to her. She's 7 years old today. And also, it was just a really good time spending time with her. However, the weekend besides that was pretty awful. My foot is still hurting pretty badly. And while I know I only have myself to blame for it, I did kick a wall. Look, I don't typically get that angry, but I was angry. I won't tell you why, it's personal. But I kicked a wall, and I didn't realize that I even kicked it that hard. I'm not even sure I was able to kick it that hard, so kind of feel it's probably the angle at which it was kicked. But it was stupid. And it's my own fault that I hurt, but I hurt nonetheless. And not just my foot where I kicked the wall, but my left leg and my hip are sore from bearing most of the weight of my body, and my calves are really tight and sore from limping for the last 4 days. Um, so when you hurt your foot, there's so much more stuff that's going to be in pain when you can't walk properly. And then to top it all off on that, the way that I actually end up limping, the way I put the weight on my foot, my heel is very sore. So, and I can't always wear a shoe. If I've got it wrapped up, I can't fit into a shoe because the wrap is too thick. Um, it's just a mess all around. I don't think, nor do I know if anything is broken or fractured. I didn't go get it checked out because, I mean, if there's a broken toe or anything, there's nothing that they can do. They can wrap it up, maybe give you a boot, some naproxen, whatever. But that's really all they can do. So it's like, what's the point? And while it would be nice to have a boot so I could wear it when I'm at work instead of a shoe, or going barefoot when my shoe starts to hurt because I can't wrap it when I'm at work when I've got the shoe on. But on Saturday, I ended up, after getting done in the back with clothes, I took my shoe off, I wrapped my foot, and I put like layers of socks on. But I think that's what really made my heel hurt, is because I went barefoot the rest of the last 3.5 hours I was there, which is not good for your feet. Anyway, it would be nice to have the boot, but I don't want to spend $1,000 just to get a boot at the emergency room, or hours at the emergency room just to get a boot. Um, I don't know. Maybe like Walgreens or CVS sells one. Maybe Walmart. I don't know. I doubt it. But I could look into it. Maybe buy one. I don't know. Anyway, but if people were praying for me like I asked on Friday, I'd still appreciate the prayers and hopefully it'll heal quickly. Somehow I feel like it won't. I feel like it'll take a couple weeks at least. Um, so, but it is what it is. It's my own fault. Don't kick walls, people. Anyway, moving on to today's episode, let's get into our daily promise of the day. For the Lord taketh pleasure in his people. He will beautify the meek with salvation. Psalm 149, verse 4. So the reflection is actually more like a prayer, it looks like today. So thank you, O God, that you delight in us, your people. Thank you for your reign of love. Thank you for taking pleasure in your people, for giving us hearts to serve, for prospering us by your Spirit, for communing with us by your means of grace, and for communicating to us your favor and good pleasure. Thank you for preparing us for your future glory. I like that. Um, you know, I don't know if this really connects to that or has anything to do with it other than um, it's a religious thing. I was on Facebook yesterday, and one of the Facebook groups that I'm a part of, they asked the question of, they said it was a serious question, and they didn't want anybody being rude or mocking him for asking the question, but he asked if Muslims would be able to go to heaven. And I was reading through a lot of the answers, and I've realized a lot of people just do not understand how going to heaven works. They seem to think that because God created all people, that different religions, as long as they're serving God, that they're going to go to heaven. And I just explained it as simply as I could, which is that yes, a Muslim can go to heaven, but they have to be saved. They have to be born again. They have to reject the Islamic religion. They have to accept Jesus as their Savior, be born again, and then they can go to heaven. But as long as they're practicing Islam, which is a rejection of who Jesus was, they'll never go to heaven no matter what they do here on earth, like they're told by their religion. It just doesn't work. And, it my thing is if you don't know what you're talking about, you probably shouldn't say anything. Um, which is why sometimes before I say stuff, I like to look it up or ask questions. I ask my dad a lot of questions. Sometimes at work, I'll send him texts and be like, "Hey, what exactly does this scripture mean?" I've done that before. I'm like, "Is this what this scripture means? Because someone said it is, and I'm not sure, and I want to know." Um, because I don't want to say something that's wrong, and then it sends someone astray from what they should know. So that's another little lesson that you can take with you, that if you don't know what you're talking about, you probably shouldn't say anything until you know. And that's good advice for anything, not just the Bible or anything like that. Okay, today I wanted to talk about this FBI agent who he was at the center of Michigan Governor Whitmer's kidnapping probe. So apparently he assaulted his wife after a swingers party. His name is Robert Trask, and I believe I want to say he was one of the head FBI undercover agents. So he's not an informant, he's an actual FBI agent. Um, so it says this is from mercurynews.com, and I don't see who wrote this article. It doesn't say. The Detroit News. There you go. So, an FBI agent at the center of the investigation into the plot to kidnap and kill Governor Gretchen Whitmer is accused of smashing his wife's head against a nightstand and choking her after a dispute stemming from their attendance at a swingers party, according to court records. One thing I've noticed is a lot of people in like political power or in positions like this, the men, they're often violent. It would seem. Let me finish this article and then I'll tell you a story. Special Agent Richard Trask, 39 of Kalamazoo, was charged Monday with assault with intent to do great bodily harm, less than less than murder following the alleged incident Sunday. Oh, great bodily harm, less than murder. So really bad harm to the body, but not enough to kill somebody. I guess that's how that's saying it. It's early. An affidavit filed by the Kalamazoo County Sheriff's Office and Kalamazoo County District Court said Trask's wife had bloody lacerations to the right side of her head and blood all over chest, clothing, arms, and hand, as well as severe bruising to her neck and throat. She told police she and her husband had several drinks at a swingers party held at a hotel in the 2700 block of South 11th Street in Oshtemo Township, just west of Kalamazoo, according to the affidavit. She added that she did not like the party and they argued about it on the way home. Well, There you go. First step, first problem, you went to a swingers party. Seriously? A swingers party? I don't understand people who are willing to share their husband or their wife with other people. Even boyfriend, even if you're not married, if it's a boyfriend or girlfriend. How I was watching Slightly Offensive, and has nothing to do with this guy, but speaking of these stupid parties, there was a video that Elijah played on Slightly Offensive, and it's a woman who's married, who has a boyfriend, and her husband has a girlfriend who's also getting married. So she's married, her husband's girlfriend is getting married, and she has a boyfriend as well. And or was it her boyfriend was getting? That's what it was. That's what it was. She's married. Her husband has a girlfriend. She has a boyfriend, but her boyfriend's getting married. So she was talking about how it's their day and she loves them both and she's happy for both of them. And I'm like, what? I couldn't imagine. I wouldn't want to knock somebody out if they thought I was going to share my husband with them. I wouldn't. Hence, I'm divorced. I don't share. You shouldn't share. Anyway, uh, mm, okay, so that's your first problem. Shouldn't have gone to a swingers party. Let's see. Trask, who was tracked down in the parking lot of a supermarket on Main Street in Oshtemo Township, refused to give a statement about the incident after he was read his Miranda rights, according to the affidavit. He has worked for the FBI since 2011 and served as the FBI's public face in the Whitmer case, testifying in federal court about the investigation. He has worked on cases involving espionage, terrorism, and domestic extremism investigations. So he's corrupt. The FBI, allegedly corrupt. The FBI on Wednesday declined to comment. FBI spokeswoman Mara Schneider on Monday said the Bureau is cooperating with the prosecutor's office. Trask's job status was unclear. Well, he's not going to be fired. In accordance with FBI policy, the incident is subject to internal review and I cannot comment further at this time, she said in a statement. Trask was released on a $10,000 personal recognized um, reconnaissance bond following an arraignment in 8th District Court in Kalamazoo and faces a charge punishable by up to 10 years in prison. As part of his bond conditions, he is prohibited from possessing a firearm. So there you go. You can't do your job without a firearm, right? I would assume also if he's convicted that would he would no longer be able to be an FBI agent, nor would ever be able to own a. I would think that's a felony charge. Aside from his FBI duties, Trask opened a gym at his rural property in Oshtemo Township near Kalamazoo and offers CrossFit training, according to social media posts and state business filings. He filed state paperwork for BCB Health and Wellness last year and maintains an active Instagram account showing him exercising, flexing, and posing shirtless. Yeah, who cares? Trask's arrest comes at a critical juncture in the criminal case against 5 men charged in federal court with plotting to kidnap Whitmer. Defense lawyers last week leveled a broad attack on the foundation of the high profile case and suggested a second FBI agent was trying to sabotage defense teams. It's the last thing you want for a major case like this, said Andrew Arena, former special agent in charge of the FBI's Detroit office. Anytime you give the defense any ammunition, it's not good. The internal review would include an investigation by FBI Internal Affairs. Depending on the severity, it could be a suspension until things are ironed out one way or another. Trask was arrested 1 week after defense lawyers provided the clearest view of how they plan to attack the kidnapping plot case. Court filings revealed a defense strategy that involves suppressing evidence, attacking the work of FBI agents, and claiming FBI informants entrapped men accused in the conspiracy. Well, if it happened exactly the way that some people have come out, okay, so apparently, the Oath Keepers, that was a group that was actually started by an FBI undercover agent. So it wasn't started by just random patriotic citizens. An undercover FBI agent started this group to pull in men like that to entrap them into doing something stupid. So when you're doing something undercover, you have to wait for the person to approach you to commit the crime. You cannot say, "Hey, let's go do this. Let's commit this crime," and get them to agree to it. That is entrapment. You can't do that. And the way that it's being told by people who are a part of this investigation that are coming out about it, if you go read the Revolver articles about it, that's exactly what happened. They were entrapped because this never would have happened had these agents not even suggested it. Because it started out just as a protest about the lockdowns in Michigan. To walk to the courthouse, I think, or the Capitol building. They were just going to march through the Capitol building and protest the lockdowns as unconstitutional. And then it spiraled out of control when the FBI got involved. So, 5 men are awaiting an October trial in federal court in Grand Rapids. The one defendant has asked U.S. District Judge Robert Jonker to move the trial out of Michigan, arguing media conduct and coverage had corrupted the potential trial atmosphere. Yeah, I would agree with that too. I would say that you should probably petition a new trial venue. I don't think you'd get a fair trial there. The arrest is the second potential problem in the case to emerge in recent months. In March, prosecutors indicted an informant who sources say helped the FBI infiltrate the alleged conspiracy, a rare legal development. The indictment of Wisconsin resident Stephen Robeson, after a prolonged period of cooperation, suggests the relationship between Robeson and the FBI is destroyed and that prosecutors do not plan on using him at a trial, legal experts said. But defense lawyers can try to call him as a witness and attack Robeson's credibility. Trask testified in federal court in January against Delaware resident Barry Croft, an accused plotter who is portrayed as the group's bombmaker. Trask identified Croft as the national leader of the Three Percenters, a small militia that participated in the January 6th insurgent as the U.S. Capitol. During the court hearing, Trask helped provide context about multiple undercover recordings that included Croft. At the time, prosecutors wanted Croft held without bond, saying he was a violent extremist. Defense lawyers have portrayed their clients as tough talkers who were exercising their First Amendment rights, who never carried out any kidnapping plot. Now, I'm no lawyer, and I don't know much about how the law works in that regard, but something would tell me with this arrest, with these charges against this FBI agent, he would no longer be considered a credible witness because he's looked at as an alleged criminal now. And I don't think that they really let those types of people be witnesses. I could be wrong. I don't know. But uh, that seems a bit odd. Um, so that's what's going on with that. Of course, well, the story that I was going to say is that it seems to be that men in positions of power like this, the intelligence agencies, police officers. Now, I'm talking about a very small percentage. I don't mean all of the men. It's a very small percentage. Even men in the military. I don't know if it's the stress of their job that leads them to these types of behaviors, but a lot of times when I don't know if it's an underlying thing that is just opened up or if it's just the stress of the job. But these men sometimes can turn violent and abuse their wives. And this has happened. There are several cases that show that from men in the military coming back home, which I would attribute that maybe to PTSD. And even police officers, you could attribute that to PTSD because whatever they see on the force, whatever they're dealing with, but that has happened where they are completely normal, loving husbands, boyfriends, whatever, sons. Then they get into these jobs and just something snaps and they end up becoming a little violent and loose cannons. And I don't know what it is about those types of jobs that it does it. And the only thing I can think of is it's just the stress and the things that you may see on the force. That's the only thing I can think of. And I've seen it happen personally. I've seen attitude change. Now, I didn't change from a good person to now they were violent, but there was an attitude change. There became an arrogancy about this person, and it you could see it. It's started slowly, and maybe took a couple years to notice it, and it wasn't a good look, and I didn't like the change. And I was concerned about it, but what can you do? If someone loves their job, they're not going to see the problem. I mean, you're not going to talk them out of how they're acting because they don't see the problem, obviously. So, just a little bit of information. I don't know. Thought it was relevant. Um, this was another article about the same guy, but I didn't know if maybe it had any extra information to go with it. So, this here says one FBI informant from Wisconsin allegedly helped organize meetings where the first inklings of the Whitmer plot surfaced, even paying for hotel rooms and food to entice people to attend, BuzzFeed reported. The I Right veteran, identified as Dan by BuzzFeed, allegedly shelled out for transportation costs to militia meetings and apparently goaded members to advance the plot. So, not only did the FBI pay for the hotels, they paid for all the supplies that would be needed to commit this kidnapping. They provided all of the money necessary to do this. Talk about some crazy stuff going on. And I mean, come on. These guys don't look like they could plan and plot a successful kidnapping. Not to be rude, they just don't look like they could have done that. Not without some serious help. Kareem Johnson, a black left-wing attorney representing Pete Musico, one of the 14 arrested, told the Post the FBI played an outsized and, at the very least, inappropriate part in the incident. Before the Bureau was involved, Johnson and other attorneys said the Watchmen weren't even considered a violent threat. The FBI knew these people had some beliefs and were egging them on and providing help and ammunition. They encouraged, helped instigate, and escalate the criminal conduct of those individuals. At the end of the day, there were almost as many FBI agents leading the group as the other people in the group. It's not the first time the FBI's use of informants has come under fire. Since the 9/11 attacks, the FBI has reportedly recruited thousands of informants, some according to the recent investigation in the New York Times that centered on the dubious arrest and conviction of the so-called Herald Square bomber by the use of an informant said they were retaliated against if they refused. Shahawar Mateen Siraj was sentenced to 30 years in prison for trying to blow up Herald Square during a 2004 plot. The lonely 21-year-old who had just moved to New York from Pakistan ultimately decided he couldn't go forward with the plan and apparently backed out of the scheme despite pressure from a pal, Osama Eldawoody, who turned out to be an FBI informant. Siraj was arrested anyway. Notorious Boston mobster Whitey Bulger always denied it, but the FBI admitted he'd been an informant for several years, beginning in 1975. While dishing out intel about the various Boston and Providence, Rhode Island crime families, Bulger was moved with impunity and without fear of prosecution when running his Winter Hill gang out of Southie. And questions still linger about the FBI's relationship with Tamerlan Sarnaev, I guess, and his brother, Z- oh, oh gosh, Zakhar, who carried out the deadly bombings at the Boston Marathon in 2013. The Sarnaevs, however, didn't make the bombs, and cops in Boston told Newsweek in 2018 they believe the FBI is protecting whoever did. Yeah, I heard about this on Slightly Offensive. So the ones who were responsible for the bombing were caught, but they believe there's someone out there who actually made the bombs that was never prosecuted. It appears to me that there are allegations with evidentiary support that the FBI may have or currently is infiltrating, inciting, or spawning alleged fringe group operations in this country, attorney Darren Ritchie told the Post. The citizens of this country deserve to know if any of the stories permeating this subject are valid. Ritchie represents ex-DEA Special Agent Mark Sami Ibrahim, who was arrested Tuesday for allegedly trespassing at the Capitol with a gun during the January 6th riot. Ibrahim allegedly claimed to investigators he was at the Capitol to help a friend who was documenting the event for the FBI. At least one veteran FBI agent dismissed allegations of entrapment against the agency in the Michigan case. Danny Coulson, a former deputy assistant director of the FBI who led the 1995 search for and arrest of the Oklahoma City bomber Timothy McVeigh, told the Post cries of entrapment have long been used by perps and he doesn't believe the FBI acted improperly in Michigan. Well, I can tell you some things that I have learned recently about the FBI. I absolutely believe it is possible that they entrap these people. For those of you watching on YouTube, did y'all happen to see this little video that popped up and started playing in the corner? I just looked over there and saw it. It's the cutest little bear with a pole. That's cute. Okay, let's get rid of it so I don't get distracted again. He was dancing. But he said that he and other FBI agents, both past and present, have very grave concerns about today's bureau. Coulson said he was shocked at the FBI's tweet last week urging citizens to monitor family members and peers for signs of extremism. The Bureau's job is to collect evidence, not to develop informants, Coulson said. That was inappropriate. Coulson said he and others are very upset the FBI hasn't arrested anti-government and anti-fascist protesters who have been leading violent demonstrations in Portland and Seattle for more than a year, yet are bearing down so hard on those arrested for the insurrection at the Capitol, or a lack thereof, rather. Coulson used to run the Portland, Oregon FBI office and said the FBI has the jurisdiction under racketeering statutes to go after the activists who set fire and vandalized federal office buildings and threatened police. I'm not demeaning what happened that day, Coulson said of January 6th, but I'm asking why those people are being punished at this level and others aren't. In Portland and Seattle, you clearly have federal laws being violated in plain sight and nothing done. At least someone's actually pointing it out finally that's not a it's not someone who supports people, maybe not necessarily on the right, but they see the hypocrisy of how it's being handled. Asked for comment, the FBI's Portland office referred the Post to the Bureau's Washington, D.C. office, who pointed to FBI Director Chris Wray's overall statement on FBI oversight at the House Judiciary Committee last month. Nobody wants to say anything either, because they know that they're being ridiculous. We do not investigate groups or individuals based on the exercise of the First Amendment protected activity alone. But it's not. They were violent. But when we encounter violence and threats to public safety, the FBI will not hesitate to take appropriate action. But they did. They hesitated for an entire year to take appropriate action against BLM and Antifa. So they're liars. Or they're idiots. I would claim that they're both. Renewed criticism of the FBI's use of informants comes amid a set of embarrassing episodes for the G-men, starting last week with the arrest of Richard Trask. Okay, so now let's back into that. And in the latest black eye for the agency, a top FBI official was accused of having a fling with an underling, then participating in a personnel decision involving her lover. The Thursday report from the U.S. Department of Justice Inspector General accused Jill Tyson, the Assistant Director of the Bureau's Office of Congressional Affairs, of misconduct in failing to disclose the relationship. The missteps and criticism come as the Biden administration announced that white supremacists and militias inside the U.S. are the biggest threat to national security. Wayne Maness, a former FBI agent, took on the Ku Klux Klan, the Aryan Nations, and the Weather Underground before retiring in 1994, said the Bureau today bears little resemblance to the place he worked for years. Maness, author of the 2017 book Street Agent, He Took on the Mob, the Klan, and the Terrorists, The True Story, said the new FBI has an agenda he doesn't understand. I and my friends from the old FBI are completely astounded about seeing things that we would moved on being totally ignored over the past year. Burning a police station? Where are the arrests? There have been multiple incidents of violence by Antifa and BLM activists that fall under FBI statutes. The majority of domestic terrorism is on the left, but we're being told it's coming from the right. Kurt Su- Su- uh, Suzdak, gosh, I hate names I can't pronounce, left his job as an FBI agent after almost 25 years in March because he told the Post bureau management does not hold bosses accountable. He blames that on politicization at the top. So I'm going to call him Kurt, who is also a lawyer and wrote an upcoming book on whistleblowers, has been in touch with Veltri, Washington, D.C. attorney David Schaefer, filed a sex harassment suit on Veltri's behalf last week. She got threatened with being investigated for misconduct, and they gave the guy who sent her the pic of his private parts an award for professionalism, Kurt said. That's today's real FBI. Wow. Wonderful. So speaking of the people who got arrested for being at the Capitol on January 6th. Nope, that's not it. There was a guy that was part of the Proud Boys. It's the leader, Joe Biggs. So he details the conditions inside federal prison after being arrested. And I thought since this is all kind of connected, we should talk about them all. This is from launchliberty.com. It's a really good website. This is by Troy Smith. So it says, Joe Biggs was arrested following the events of January 6, 2021. Biggs, without attacking any officers, entered the Capitol building and walked around. Biggs also destroyed a church banner that read Black Lives Matter with multiple other protesters. Now, I will disagree with that. That's not your property. You shouldn't destroy anything that is not your property. Um, Walking through the Capitol building, that's one thing because that's paid for by us, and that is our Capitol. It's not the government's. But if it's a, I don't care what kind of flag it is, if it's flying on a church property or school property, any property that's not your property, you have no right to do anything to it, whether you agree with the message on it or not. So I will disagree with him doing that. That was wrong. He was initially charged with 3 counts: entering restricted grounds, obstruction of a proceeding, and disorderly conduct. For this, he has been in solitary confinement for months. He was arrested on January 20th, 2021, and has been in a Florida federal prison since then. Joe Biggs is a war veteran with 2 Purple Heart medals. He served in Iraq and Afghanistan. Now he has released a letter from prison in which he details the cruel and unusual punishment taking place in Florida. That's very strange. I guess Ron DeSantis doesn't hold any power over a federal prison in his state. I guess not, because it's a federal prison. Okay. Today is my 3-month anniversary being locked up. Not allowed to work out. My body feels as if it's aged so much, can hardly move. Walking has become very difficult. I sleep on a piece of steel welded to a wall with a thin mattress. I now have major lower back issues and shoulder pain from the bed, in quotes. I've gotten maybe 10 hours outside altogether since being here. I get to go outside maybe 3 times a month. The food here is all soy based, so it's weakening our bodies. Hardly any protein. What if you're allergic to soy? Because there's a lot of people that are allergic to soy products. Mostly processed foods and some kind of gelatin dog food looking stuff. No privacy allowed when using the restroom. You have to be in view of everyone. Each cell has a shelf. You are not allowed to use it. Nothing can be placed on it. Lights go out at 11:45 p.m. and back on at 4 a.m. for breakfast. Luckily, the showers are only one person allowed at a time. Every cell has a small window that has been sandblasted so you can never see outside. Breaking any rules can result in losing ability to talk to family or a trip to the hole for a few weeks where you are stripped naked and left in a bright freezing room. I have anxiety bad now. Panic attacks so bad I black out. There are actual white supremacist gang members here who hate the fact the media call Proud Boys white supremacists. I bet there are. If you want to know where you're going to find all your white supremacist, Aryan Nation Brotherhood people, look no further than the prison cells, okay? They tested me on what it means to be one of them, and I failed miserably. Good. I have to be one of them. I have to be one of them, and I failed miserably. Okay, wait. Good. I have a mixed baby, so that automatically keeps me away from that gang life. I live amongst actual racial supremacist groups, and they all say I'm too nice and nothing like the media makes me out to be. The black guys in here say if I'm any kind of representative for the Proud Boys, then they like us and want to be in our group. It's funny, all these bad people shunned by society have taken the time to see me for me, and the media won't even try. I tend to stay to myself alone in my cell, reading the Bible and other Christian books. The plus side to this, God was able to get a hold of me in this place. In the end, I just pray people see the truth. I had nothing to do with that day. I never planned what happened. I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Joe Biggs, political prisoner, aka inmate 2021000002744. There you go. So, how can this be allowed in America? How can Joe Biggs be so punished in such a cruel, unconstitutional, and ridiculous manner? What the feds have done to this Purple Heart veteran is purely what? Where's the rest of that sentence? Evil. I'll finish it for them. His charges essentially amount to trespassing. It is a complete fraud. We cannot allow for people to be attacked, destroyed, and tortured like Joe Biggs. He has not even had his trial yet. He should be released immediately. Those who put Biggs in these kind of disgusting conditions should lose their power to determine justice. The judges and prosecutors that sought this kind of cruel and unusual punishment should lose their ability to practice law. In America, we have constitutional rights to fight against cruel and unusual punishment. The Eighth Amendment guarantees every citizen the right to be fairly treated. The Eighth Amendment of the United States Constitution prohibits the federal government from imposing excessive bail, excessive fines, or cruel and unusual punishments. Unfortunately, Biggs is not the only individual having his constitutional rights destroyed. Hundreds of other peaceful protesters still remain in solitary confinement. Even Russian President Vladimir Putin has brought up the insane, illegal, and cruel treatment of the protesters. When you have the leader of Russia telling you that you are treating your prisoners completely wrong and illegally, there's a problem. The Biden administration is doing things that the world does not usually expect of the United States. They are creating a tyranny that even Vladimir Putin is astounded by. This is not normal. We cannot allow it to happen. Impeach this corrupt administration and end the political persecution of Joe Biggs and hundreds of other peaceful protesters. Contact your representatives now and tell them to end the brutal treatment of these political prisoners. You can also contact your senators to tell them the same. You can go to house.gov/representatives. You find your state. Same with senate.gov/senators and find your senators if you wanted to do that. And I think that's a good idea. I'll look into doing that myself. All right. So let's talk about what's going on in Chicago. So when was this written? Yeah, this is recent. This is today. So at least 10 killed, 55 wounded so far in weekend shootings across Chicago. This past weekend, okay? This is from cbslocal.com, and it's by the CBS2 Chicago staff, okay? So at least 70 people have been shot across Chicago so far this weekend, and 12 of them have been killed. Now, if you're on audio only and you wanted to look at this, just go to the YouTube channel. This is a map that was made with Google. I guess it shows the violence that happened. So, 4000 West Wilcox Street on July 25th at 6:59 p.m. There was one victim, age 28, wounded. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. I didn't want to do that. Okay. What's the green one? 800 North Homan Avenue, July 25th, 5:48 p.m. One victim, age 35, one homicide, one dead. That's what the green ones are. They're homicides. 1700 North Moody Avenue, July 24th, 1:15 a.m. One victim, age 37, one homicide, one dead. I'm trying to see. I'm looking to see if there were any really, like, kids, maybe. Okay. 6800 South Peoria Street, July 24th, 1:15 a.m. Two victims, ages 15 and 17. One dead, one wounded. 5800 Southwestern Avenues, July 24th, 3:52 p.m. Two victims, one age 20, one age unknown. One homicide, so one dead, one wounded. Okay. And then we have, I looked at that one. What about that one? Okay. 5000 West Augusta Boulevard, July 24th, 1:49 p.m. Age 19. Quit doing that. One dead. This is crazy. And then you have all these other ones that are just wounded, but still, it's a lot of people. Is there any that are, is an 18-year-old that was wounded, 17-year-old and a 21-year-old that were wounded, 19-year-old wounded. It's just nuts. That's nuts. If you want to check out that map, you can go to cbslocal.com. Okay. So, at least four of the victims were under age 18, including one boy who was killed and another who was injured when they were shot in a backyard in Inglewood early Saturday morning. Police say the shooting happened around 1:15 a.m. in the 6800 block of South Peoria. A 15-year-old was seriously hurt after he was shot in the stomach, and a 17-year-old was hit in the chest and died at the University of Chicago Medical Center. Around the same time, a 37-year-old man was killed in a shooting in the Gilwood neighborhood on the northwest side. Police said the victim was standing on the sidewalk with a group of people on the 1700 block of North Moody Avenue when someone in a blue sedan started shooting at them. The victim was taken to Loyola University Medical Center with a gunshot wound to the head and later was pronounced dead. The first homicide of the weekend happened around 7:30 p.m. Friday in the South Shore neighborhood. Police said a 19-year-old man was standing on the sidewalk on the 7000 block of South Merrill Avenue when he heard shots and felt pain. The victim suffered multiple gunshot wounds and was taken to University of Chicago Medical Center where he was pronounced dead. He was identified as Gennaro DeBerry. Gennaro DeBerry. I'm sorry if I butchered that. Around 5:15 a.m. Saturday, police officers on patrol in the Chatham neighborhood heard gunfire on the first block of East 79th Street and found a 36-year-old man lying on the ground with multiple gunshot wounds to the chest. A shooter in a passing car had opened fire on the victim and fled the scene. The victim was taken to University of Chicago Medical Center where he was pronounced dead. Shortly before 1:50 p.m. Saturday, a 19-year-old man was shot and killed in the South Austin neighborhood on the west side. Police said the victim was on the sidewalk on the 5000 block of West Augusta Boulevard when two gunmen walked up and started shooting. The victim was shot in the shoulder and back and was taken to Mount Sinai Hospital where he was pronounced dead. Around 3:50 p.m. Saturday, two males were inside a vehicle near 58th and Western in Gage Park when they heard gunshots and felt pain, police said. The vehicle they were in flipped over. A 20-year-old man was shot in the back and was taken to Holy Cross Hospital, where he was pronounced dead. A male whose age was not immediately known suffered a grazed wound to the head and was taken to University of Chicago Medical Center in good condition. At about 8:15 p.m. Saturday, a 31-year-old man was near the sidewalk on the 500 block of East 79th Street in the Chatham neighborhood when someone walked up and shot him in the chest. The victim was taken to University of Chicago Medical Center where he was pronounced dead. I have to wonder what must it be like to be these uh, EMTs, these nurses, and these doctors that are constantly getting these gunshot victims all the time throughout the weekend, constantly. What must it be like for them to know that this is what's happening in their city, that they know almost guaranteed anytime someone is rolled through that front door that it's going to be a gunshot victim from a violent crime of some sort, gang related or otherwise. And you have Mayor Beetlejuice who cares nothing about what's going on in her city at all. At 6:10 a.m. Sunday, a 32-year-old man was in a building in the 3200 block of West Maypole Avenue in East Garfield Park when another man came up and fired multiple shots into the building and fled the scene. The victim suffered multiple gunshot wounds and was pronounced dead at the scene at 9:58 a.m. At 5:45 p.m. Sunday, a 26-year-old man was killed as he drove during a shootout between a group in a car and a group on a porch on the southeast side. The man was driving south in the 9700 block of South Avenue L with three other men, and the group in the car started shooting at another group of men on the porch. That group fired back and struck the 26-year-old man. He kept driving, but ended up crashing into a parked car, police said. Okay, so I don't know if he's saying that the 26-year-old man that was killed was in the car that was a part of the shootout or drove between the car that was in the shootout and the guys on the porch. It doesn't make it very clear if he was a part of that shootout or just happened to be in the wrong place, wrong time. They should clarify that. Um, at 5:45 p.m. Sunday, a 26-year-old man, they just they just repeated that, just so you know. That's the same thing they just repeated twice. The man was taken to University of Chicago Medical Center where he was pronounced dead. A teenage boy was also taken to Advocate Trinity Hospital for a laceration. At 5:48 p.m. Sunday, a 35-year-old man was sitting in his vehicle in the 800 block of North Holman Avenue in Humboldt Park when a passenger in a gray sedan began shooting at the vehicle. The victim was taken to Mount Sinai Hospital where he was pronounced dead. Five men were injured in a mass shooting in the 4800 block of West Race Avenue in South Austin at 12:29 a.m. Sunday. The men, ages 23, 30, 36, 48, and 50, were all shot multiple times in the lower extremities and were taken to Stroger Hospital of Cook County and Mount Sinai Hospital, where their conditions were stabilized. Two shootings on Sunday also left three people injured. The first happened at 12:12 a.m. in the 300 block of South Kilburn Avenue in West Garfield Park. In that incident, three men were outside when they heard multiple gunshot wounds and felt pain. A 39-year-old man shot once in the torso and was stabilized at Mount Sinai Hospital. A 55-year-old man was shot once in the thigh and buttocks and was taken to the same hospital in good condition. And a 31-year-old man was shot once in the back and chest and was taken to Stroger Hospital of Cook County in serious condition. At 12:45 p.m. Sunday, three men were near the sidewalk in the 3200 block of West Lake Street in East Garfield Park when a vehicle pulled up and someone inside shot them all. Wow. A 23-year-old man suffered a graze wound to the forearm and a 21-year-old man was shot in the leg, and both were taken to Mount Sinai Hospital in good condition. A 30-year-old man was shot in the leg and was taken to the same hospital in critical condition. One man was shot and another was stabbed early Sunday morning in the 100 block of West Kinsey Street in River North. At 2:58 a.m., a 25-year-old man was shot in the leg when an unknown assailant fired several shots in his direction. A 23-year-old man was stabbed in the lower back by a second assailant in the same incident. The victims were both taken to Northwestern Memorial Hospital, where their conditions were stabilized. An additional man was also stabbed and fled the scene, according to witnesses. Oh, goodness. Early Saturday, a man was shot while driving with a woman and four younger children on the Eisenhower Expressway downtown. The 26-year-old man from Logansport, Indiana, was driving on the ramp from the eastbound Eisenhower to Wacker Drive in Franklin Street at 1:05 a.m. when his car was struck by gunfire. The man was taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. A 26-year-old woman, an 8-year-old boy, a 7-year-old girl, a 4-year-old boy, and a 2-year-old girl were uninjured. Well, thank God they were all okay, those kids. Police were also investigating a shooting outside of Mount Sinai Hospital, which left at least three windows damaged but no injuries. Police said the shooter was standing outside the hospital on the 1500 block of South Fairfield Avenue around 3 p.m. Saturday when the shooter pulled out a gun and fired shots, damaging at least three windows of the hospital. No injuries were reported. I mean, these people are just pulling out their guns in sticking broad daylight. They don't care. You know why? Because Mayor Beetlejuice doesn't give any consequences for this type of behavior. None at all. Because if she punishes these people, then their narrative is shot that it's all white people killing black people, rather than the truth that black people are killing black people in Chicago and is running rampant and is getting worse and worse as the days go by over the years. I mean, by next weekend, you're going to see even more people being shot and killed. How many people have to die in your city before you actually take responsibility and do something about it? How many people? I don't know. Also, how many people that elected this moron to run their city are going to keep her there, seeing how she doesn't care about the city or the people dying in it? How long are y'all going to let her stay in that position before you try to rip her out of her office because she's not doing her job? Wake up, people. You want to protect your family, your kids, your friends, your husband, your sister? You want to protect those people from getting shot and killed? Get somebody in there who's going to do their job and arrest criminals and put them in jail where they belong. In other shootings since 5 p.m. Friday, police said at 6:21 p.m. Friday, a 36-year-old woman and a man whose age is unknown were inside separate vehicles on the 7600 block of South State Street in Chatham when another vehicle pulled up and someone inside fired shots. The woman was shot in the leg and was taken to University of Chicago Medical Center in good condition. The male victim was shot in the body and went to the same hospital, but his condition was not available. At 7:13 p.m. Friday, a 24-year-old man was near a vacant lot on the 4000 block of West Monroe Street in West Garfield Park when he was shot in the chest and leg. He was taken to Mount Sinai Hospital in critical condition. At 6:49 p.m. Friday, a 39-year-old man was entering a home on the 100 block of West 125th Street in West Pullman when a vehicle pulled up and someone shot him in the buttocks. He was taken to Advocate Christ Medical Center where his condition was stabilized. At 6:57 p.m. Friday, a male victim whose age is unknown was shot in the 1700 block of West 79th Street in Gresham. The victim was taken to Little Company of Mary Hospital, but his condition was not available. At 8:07 p.m. Friday, a 32-year-old man was walking on the sidewalk on the 7000 block of South Perry Avenue in Inglewood when someone in a black SUV started shooting. The victim suffered graze wounds to his right leg and right hand and declined to go to the hospital. At 9:09 p.m. Friday, two men were on the sidewalk on the 700 block of East 79th Street in Chatham when someone in a white SUV fired shots. A 33-year-old man was shot in the chest and right hand and was taken to University of Chicago Medical Center in critical condition. A 21-year-old man was shot in the right hand and was taken to the same hospital in fair condition. At 10:01 p.m. Friday, a 44-year-old man was walking on the sidewalk on the 2500 block of South Keeler Avenue in Little Village when someone in a passing vehicle started shooting. The victim was taken to Mount Sinai Hospital in critical condition with multiple gunshot wounds. At 10:07 p.m. Friday, a 28-year-old man was standing on the sidewalk on the 1200 block of West 73rd Place in Inglewood when someone in a blue SUV started shooting. The victim suffered gunshot wounds to the buttocks, right leg, and right hand and refused treatment. At 12:08 a.m. Saturday, a 28-year-old man was standing on the sidewalk with a group of people on the 4000 block of West Washington Boulevard when someone in a black sedan started shooting. The man was taken to Mount Sinai Hospital with a gunshot wound to the abdomen and was listed in critical condition. At 12:44 a.m. Saturday, a 21-year-old man and a 17-year-old boy were standing on the street on the 7100 block of South Ada Street in Inglewood when someone in a black sedan fired shots. The man was taken to University of Chicago Medical Center in fair condition with a gunshot wound to the right leg. The boy was taken to Advocate Christ Medical Center in serious condition with gunshot wounds to the right leg. At 2:45 a.m. Saturday, a 23-year-old man was sitting in the living room of a home on the 900 block of North Richmond Avenue in Humboldt Park when someone in a passing vehicle started shooting. The victim was taken to Stroger Hospital of Cook County with a gunshot wound to the right leg and was listed in good condition. I was about to just say, man, you're not safe on the streets of Chicago. You better stay inside your home, but you're not even safe inside your home. Better leave the city. Um, At 2:50 a.m. Saturday, two women were driving on the 8700 block of South Holland Road in West Chatham when someone in another vehicle started shooting. The victims drove themselves to University of Chicago Medical Center. A 27-year-old woman was in fair condition with a gunshot wound to the right leg, and a 32-year-old woman was in fair condition with a gunshot wound to the right arm. At 2:56 a.m. Saturday, a 21-year-old man was walking on the sidewalk on the 2800 block of East 75th Street in the South Shore neighborhood when a gunman walked up and shot him in the right leg. The victim went to South Shore Hospital where he was listed in fair condition. I didn't intend for this last segment to be all these shootings in Chicago, but I feel it's necessary to read every single one that's written. At 3:24 a.m. Saturday, a 33-year-old man was standing in a garage in the 6500 block of South Kaminsky Avenue in West Lawn when someone in a black SUV shot him in the left foot. The victim was taken to Advocate Christ Medical Center in good condition. At 4:09 a.m. Saturday, a 23-year-old man was standing on the sidewalk with a group of people on the 4300 block of West Monroe Street in West Garfield Park when shots were fired from the end of the block. The man was taken to Mount Sinai Hospital in good condition with a gunshot wound to the left leg. At 7:11 a.m. Saturday, two men were standing on a sidewalk in the 800 block of North Drake Avenue in Humboldt Park when someone got out of a dark sedan and started shooting at them. The shooter got back in his vehicle and fled the scene. A man in his 50s was struck multiple times in the torso and taken to Stroger Hospital in critical condition. A 25-year-old man was struck in the thigh and transported to Stroger Hospital in good condition. At 1:15 p.m. Saturday, a 19-year-old man was on the 8600 block of South Kingston Avenue in the South Chicago neighborhood when several people walked up to him and one of them shot him in the left shoulder. The victim was taken to University of Chicago Medical Center where his condition was stabilized. At 2:05 p.m. Saturday, a 25-year-old man was near the sidewalk on the 6700 block of South King Drive in Park Manor when a vehicle pulled up alongside him and someone shot him in the thigh. The victim was taken to the University of Chicago Medical Center in good condition. At 2:46 p.m. Saturday, a 23-year-old man was in his vehicle on the 3200 block of North DuSable Lake Shore Drive in Lakeview when he heard gunshots and realized he'd been shot in the foot. He went to Weiss Memorial Hospital where he was listed in good condition. At 6:09 p.m. Saturday, a 38-year-old man was near the sidewalk on the 5600 block of South Racine Avenue in Inglewood when several people walked up and one of them started shooting. The victim was shot in the calf and went to University of Chicago Medical Center where he was listed in good condition. A lot of people were sent to that University of Chicago Medical Center over the weekend. Gosh. At 10:32 p.m. Saturday, a 34-year-old man was standing next to his vehicle in the 1100 block of West 57th Street in Inglewood when he heard several shots and felt pain. The victim was shot once in the face and arm and was taken to Mount Sinai Hospital in good condition. He reported that he saw an unidentified suspect fleeing the scene. At 10:48 p.m. Saturday, a 34-year-old man was standing on a porch in the 11700 block of South Union Avenue in West Pullman when someone fired several shots from a dark-colored sport utility vehicle. The victim was shot once in the arm and was taken to Roseland Community Hospital in good condition. At 11:22 p.m. Saturday, a man between 30 and 40 years old was shot 5 times in the leg by someone in a black sedan in the 700 block of South Cicero Avenue in South Austin. The victim could not communicate further information because of the severity of his injuries. At 12:12 a.m. Sunday, a 41-year-old man was standing near his car in the 2900 block of South State Street in the Dearborn Homes development when a 16-year-old boy walked up with a handgun. The man, who is a concealed carry license holder, drew his own gun and shot the boy in the arm. The boy fled the scene but was apprehended by police soon afterward and was taken to the University of Chicago's Comer Children's Hospital in good condition. The victim was not injured. At 2:51 a.m. Sunday, a 48-year-old man was standing outside in the 5800 block of South Peoria Street in Inglewood when someone shot at him from a tan sedan. The victim was shot once, each in the abdomen and ankle, and was taken to St. Bernard Hospital where his condition was stabilized. At 3:17 a.m. Sunday, an 18-year-old woman sitting in a parked vehicle in the 1500 block of Luis Munoz Marin Drive within Humboldt Park when two men came up on a bicycle and one of them shot her. The victim was struck in the leg and was taken to Stroger Hospital of Cook County in serious condition. At 3:58 a.m. Sunday, two men, ages 30 and 43, were standing outside in the 099 block of East Cermak Road in the South Loop when a black vehicle went by and someone inside shot them both. The younger man was shot once in the calf and was taken to the University of Chicago Medical Center where his condition was stabilized, while the older man was shot once in the left leg and was taken to Stroger Hospital of Cook County in critical condition. At 4:05 a.m. Sunday, a 21-year-old man was in a fight with another man in the 5500 block of West Washington Boulevard in South Austin when a third man came up and shot the first man. The victim as shot the victim was shot once in the groin and was taken to Stoker Hospital of Cook County, where his condition was stabilized. At 4:08 a.m. Sunday, an 18-year-old man was traveling in a vehicle in the 3700 block of South Hermitage Avenue in McKinley Park when he heard shots and felt pain. He was shot once in the arm and was taken to University of Illinois at Chicago Medical Center, where his condition was stabilized. The victim was uncooperative with further details. Yeah, I bet a lot were. At 4:36 a.m. Sunday, a 19-year-old man was driving south in the 1400 block of South Keeler Avenue in Lawndale when he heard several shots and felt pain. He was taken to Mount Sinai Hospital in good condition with a gunshot wound to the lower back. At 1:13 p.m. Sunday, a 28-year-old man was in a car in the 1500 block of West Madison Street on the near west side when a dark-colored sport utility vehicle came up and someone inside shot him. He was struck multiple times in his body and self-transported to Rush University Medical Center, where he was in good condition. At 1:49 p.m. Sunday, a man of an unknown age was shot in the thigh in the 6500 block of South Ellis Avenue in Woodlawn. He was taken to the UFC Medical Center in an unknown condition. Why couldn't you have been saying that this whole time? The UFC Medical Center. Why didn't I think to say it like that? At 6:59 p.m. Sunday, a 28-year-old man was near the sidewalk in the 4000 block of West Wilcox Street in West Garfield Park when an attacker came up and shot him. The victim was struck in the shoulder and was taken to Loretto Hospital in fair condition. At 7:05 p.m. Sunday, a 65-year-old man was in a commercial business in the 4200 block of West Fullerton Avenue in Hermosa when he heard shots and felt pain. He was grazed in the shoulder and refused medical treatment. At 7:39 p.m. Sunday, a 20-year-old woman was in a vehicle in the 5700 block of South Elizabeth Street when a vehicle pulled up and someone inside fired shots. She was struck in the face and was taken to the UFC Medical Center in good condition. That's all of them so far. Um, yeah. So this is what's going on in Chicago, and you have to ask yourself, well, what is Mayor Lightfoot doing about the violence in Chicago? So let's see. So that was June 3rd. Okay. Oh, okay. Well, let's do it this way because apparently she had a plan. Okay. So apparently Mayor Beetlejuice had a summer violence plan. Its violence program is unique is that it does address violence a little differently than past mayors, but it is not unique in how it is not part of a long-term solution for communities. Um, the summer violence plan is that it seems to be data driven to laser focus on 15 Chicago Police Department beats with the most violence. This is truly unique as previous mayors have always taken more generalized approaches. Okay, blah, blah, blah. So, the fact that there is a summer violence plan and not a plan to pour in massive economic resources and social services into these communities over the long term shows that the focus from City Hall is in reducing numbers in the short term with absolutely no plan on changing these communities for the long term. While I do believe that Mayor Beetlejuice genuinely wants to reduce violence in these communities and does care about the lives in these communities, she just doesn't care enough to do what needs to be done over the long term in these communities. This is why we have a summer violence plan. It is not that it is a bad one, it is just that the summer violence plan exists at all. We will certainly be back here in summer 2022. If the summer violence plan is successful, we might have 15 new beats to be laser focuses on, but is that really progress? Yeah, okay. I see what she's saying. What's the point of a summer plan? Why not just a long term plan? So now, Chicago Sun-Times. Nearly a year into Mayor Beetlejuice's anti violence plan, many of Chicago's most dangerous neighborhoods are doing worse. So you can go to chicago.suntimes.com. I'm not sure who wrote this article, but maybe we'll find out. David Struett. There you go. All right. So last year, Mayor Lori Lightfoot unveiled an ambitious plan to narrow Chicago's safety gap, the deep disparity among neighborhoods where some residents are 42 times more likely to be shot. The plan, Our City, Our Safety, proposed flooding the 15 most violent community areas with resources, not just violence intervention programs, but help with jobs and housing and health. But nearly a year into the effort, you think that housing and health and jobs is causing the violence? You think that's a part of it? You think if you give that kind of stuff to people, the violence stops? I mean, come on, let's be real. Okay, but nearly a year into the effort, gun violence is up in at least 9 of the areas. The numbers are far starker when you look at how crime has risen since 2019, when Lightfoot took office, before the current spike in gun violence swept the city and the country. Fatal shootings in West Pullman are up 566% from this time 2 years ago. North Lawndale, 201%, South Lawndale, 160%, Chatham, 116%. Only 3 of the areas targeted by City Hall are down from 2019: West Englewood, Roseland, and Humboldt Park. Yet the administration has yet to funnel any extra assistance to some of those dangerous neighborhoods, particularly on the far south side, according to the city's website. The West Pullman community area, for example, has received none of the $36 million released by City Hall under the plan this year. In a few months, the Beetlejuice administration will announce how much of $1.8 billion in federal stimulus aid should go to West Pullman and the other neighborhoods it has targeted, neighborhoods that have accounted for 50% of the violence in Chicago over the last 3 years. West Pullman has seen 20 homicides so far in 2021. This puts the community on track to have a deadlier year than 2020. This community is 3 homicides away from increasing its 3 year average, which is currently 16 homicides per year from 2018 to 2020. Compared to this time in 2019, West Pullman has seen a 566.7% increase. So January 1st to July 22nd in 2018, it looks like there were 12 homicides. 2019 there were 3, 2020 there were 11, and now in 2021 there are 20. The year total for 2018 from that time period is only 22. Not that time. The year total in 2018, 22 homicides total. 6 homicides in 2019. Now, we're not talking about statewide or citywide. We're talking about just West Pullman. And 2020, there were 20 homicides. And in 2021, we have 20 homicides, obviously. So the 3 year average, 15.3, right? So, experts in the field, some of them involved in the debates over what to fund, say the plan is admirable, but they have serious doubts about the way it's being implemented. In interviews with the Sun Times, they questioned Beetlejuice's management style and her ability to get things done. They also claim much of the money so far has been going to established outreach groups while overlooking jobs and education programs that may be more expensive and more complicated to administer. It's a solid plan, said Lance Williams, urban studies professor at Northeastern Illinois University, who has sat in on the funding discussions. The problem is that there are no resources attached to the plan to make it actionable. The city's approach is just to PR their way through the shootings. As gun violence has continued to spike this summer, the mayor has repeatedly touted the plan as an all hands on deck approach that coordinates city agencies to reduce shootings. At a closed meeting with dozens of community groups late last month, Beetlejuice said progress was being made but acknowledged there was much more to be done. I feel like we're getting traction, but it's early in the process, she said, according to a video of the meeting. We're thinking of how we can elevate these policies to another level. The 103-page plan calls gun violence a preventable public health crisis that brings devastating levels of violence that disproportionately affect communities of color. It lists 5 pillars or guiding principles: empower and heal those actively engaged in violence, whether victims or perpetrators; reclaim neighborhoods and safe spaces by directing resources to neighborhoods with most violence; improve relations between police and communities by developing credibility, trust, and authentic relationships. Let me stop you right there. You wouldn't have to do that if you didn't spend the last year demonizing the police and telling everybody that the police were hunting down black men. That wouldn't be one of your pillars. You're the one that destroyed the credibility and trust and relationships between the communities and the police. That's the fault of the mayor, the media, the government, everyone in leadership positions. That's their fault. Consider the impact of ordinances and laws on violence and advocate for policies that will increase support for those impacted. Constant collaboration, proactive planning, and coordinated efforts between the city and the justice system, community groups, and private companies. Just how the city plans to accomplish these goals is hard to pin down. Two community meetings on the plan have been closed to the public, and the mayor's office has not published a full list of grant money issued so far, other than posting various agencies involved in outreach efforts. Sources told the Sun-Times one of those agencies is Metropolitan Family Services, which was issued a $9.4 million grant to expand its anti-violence services. The organization said the money has helped fund 28 neighborhood groups through its community partnering for peace program to provide outreach and mediations. I can tell you the best way to handle this is to arrest everybody that you can that has shot somebody, killed somebody, commits a crime, illegally possessing a firearm. You get them all off the streets, you might find your streets a lot safer. Just saying. And stop trying to take guns away from law abiding citizens where they can protect themselves. Pressed for over 2 weeks to provide an accounting of all the money released through Our City, Our Safety, City Hall said Friday a list will be published online soon. Since day one, Mayor Beetlejuice's priority has been to invest in programs that support those at highest risk of violence. Um, a spokesman said in an email. Street outreach programs engage with individuals at highest risk to interpret violence, mediate conflicts, and connect individuals with needed services and supports. But the lack of details from City Hall makes it difficult to measure the effectiveness of the plan, critics say, and cast doubt about future efforts. One person who attended the closed meeting complained the city has failed to show even privately how investments have been made and how many people have been helped. Even before the plan was released, aldermen had been complaining about how the Beetlejuice administration was funding violence prevention in their wards. In a September meeting of the City Council's budget and Public Safety Committees, Southside um, Alderman Michelle Harris said the city was wasting millions by funding violence prevention organizations that had no impact. Aldermen aimed their criticism at Susan Lee, deputy mayor for public safety, complaining she was instrumental in choosing the organizations. Lee told the Sun-Times she had not selected the programs and that the grant selection process was run independently of Beetlejuice's office. Lee spent years working for violence prevention nonprofits and had been hired to shift the city away from a police-oriented approach to gun violence. She drafted the Our City, Our Safety plan around that principle and then stepped down days later. Her replacement, John O'Malley, has spent his career in law enforcement, first in the U.S. Marshal Service, then on the Chicago Police Board, and most recently as a security director at an investment firm. At a police board meeting earlier this month, O'Malley said the city launched a summer violent initiative aimed at about a dozen of the city's nearly 280 police patrol beats. I don't want to jinx it, but halfway in, we're showing what traditionally was murder shootings in those four zones in those 15 beats decrease. And again, knock on wood, I don't want to jinx it, but we are on a path to prove our methodology. None of those beats, however, are located in the West Pullman community area, even though it has one of the highest increases in shootings. Neither O'Malley nor City Hall explained why. They also provided no numbers to back up O'Malley's claim. By the plan's own measure, Chicago would need to have fewer than 177 homicides per year to be on par with Los Angeles and fewer than 97 to be on par with New York City. Chicago has already logged more than 400 homicides in 2021. The city ended 2020 with more than 770 homicides. Shootings and murders skyrocketed in 2020, about 50% from the year before, amid a year of unrest following the police killing of George Floyd and the economic uncertainty during COVID shutdowns. It was the most violent year since the mid 1990s. Chicago is on pace to be as bad or worse this year. Shootings are up 10% compared with the same period of 2020, while murders show a 1% decrease. Shootings have increased to 10 of the areas prioritized by the mayor: West Pullman, South Shore, Greater Grand Crossing, Auburn Gresham, Roseland, Inglewood, East Garfield Park, Chicago Lawn, West Inglewood, and North Lawndale. Five have had fewer shootings than last year: South Lawndale, Austin, Humboldt Park, West Garfield Park, and Chatham. Alderman Anthony Bill, whose ninth ward covers a part of West Pullman, said his community has received very little money, if any, under the plan. Bill said violence was actually trending down until around 2019 when he claims the police department shifted resources downtown. When you look at the progress we were making, we were working with CRED violence interpreters and police, and to have everything disrupted and have your cops sent downtown and near north, it's a problem. Beetlejuice's office did not deny that West Pullman had received no funding under the plan for anti-violence programs, but a spokesman said the community is eligible for street outreach grants that will be announced in the coming weeks. City Hall also noted that West Pullman received violence prevention services through privately funded groups such as CRED, which works with people most likely to be involved in gun violence, either pulling the trigger or getting shot. It offers coaching, counseling, and job training. Loyola University criminologist Art Lorigio cautioned that sustained anti-violence effort will need years of investment and change. I looked at the plan. It makes sense. It's more than just law enforcement interventions, and I applaud that. But how long do you keep this going? It's another program with a fancy name. Let's see what happens. Chicago allocated $36 million for violence prevention measures in 2021 through a combination of sources: $16 million in city funds, $15 million in federal CARES Act money, and $5 million from the Cannabis Regulatory Act tax revenue. Ugh, 5 million from the Cannabis Regulatory Act tax revenue, according to Beetlejuice's office. During the late June committee meeting on the plan, Beetlejuice asked for input on how to spend a portion of the $1.8 billion in federal stimulus aid, a potentially huge chunk of money that would vastly extend the city's efforts. It's still unclear how much of that money will be spent on our city, our safety. Beetlejuice has already vowed to use some of it to cover city debts and to help undocumented residents who didn't receive stimulus checks. Why? They don't deserve it. They're illegal. Why don't you take care of your citizens that actually live there? Oh, I can't stand people that do that junk. Okay. When given the chance to spend federal stimulus dollars earlier this year, Beetlejuice spent more than $281 million to cover police personnel costs. Susan Lee, the author of the plan, said a fair chunk of the $1.8 billion should go toward people in neighborhoods considered most at risk. In Chicago, of all places, with the exhausting volume of shootings and homicides, no investing a fair chunk of that federal money into the issue would be unconscionable. But even if violence prevention measures get a big boost in funding, critics say the cash will be going to programs that are easy to fund, not to programs that reach those most at risk of gun violence. Eddie Bocanagra, whatever, sorry I butchered it, is a member of Beetlejuice's Violence Prevention Committee who directs Ready Chicago, a jobs training program for men likely to be involved in gun violence. I was a big supporter of the mayor when she ran for office, but I'm so disappointed in her leadership and lack of management. I don't think the mayor really cares about outcomes. If she did, she would be investing in services that have measurable impact. Bocangera said others have criticized the plan for focusing too heavily on outreach to high-risk populations and not enough on educational and job opportunities. City Hall encountered that its investments are focused on programs that show the most promise of lowering gun violence. Officials say the programs go beyond outreach and provide services like case management, job placement, and mental health treatment. Bocangera also criticized Beetlejuice for relying too much on police for violence reduction. If we know cops aren't equipped to be social workers, why don't we set up with social workers? Well, that's stupid because social workers aren't equipped to take care of criminals. But the Beetlejuice administration says it is addressing over reliance on cops by funding a $3.5 million alternative response pilot this fall to place mental health specialists on some ambulances to respond alongside or independently of police. Gonna have a lot more people die. Details of that program and others were shared in Beetlejuice's second Violence Prevention Planning Committee meeting on June 29th. The semi-annual meeting, attended by dozens of community organization representatives, was mostly informational. The meeting was closed to the public, but the city shared video of the meeting and promised to share upcoming committee meetings after being criticized for keeping the meetings private. Williams, the Northeastern Illinois University professor, was an early critic of Beetlejuice's handling of the anti-violence program, but was invited to the second meeting. It's refreshing that the city, for the first time I've seen in 30 years, understands you can't take a strict police-oriented perspective to the problem, Williams said. However, Williams said money would be better used on programs that directly help the high-risk population. Outreach is cool because you need to get to him, speak his language, to lead him in the right direction, he said, but we need the programming to get the social services he needs. That kid needs therapy. He needs to get redirected to educational opportunities. Okay, well, there you go. That's what's going on in Chicago. I didn't get to the rest of the stuff I wanted to get to. We'll talk about that tomorrow. But God, this was very important, I think, to be pointing out. You know, it's I feel bad for all of the innocent people that live in these areas and are losing their family members, their friends to gun violence because you have an incompetent mayor and administration that don't know how to do their job and they let criminals run rampant on the streets. I feel bad for you guys. I pity people that are stuck in that place and can't leave. Anyway, I'm going to leave this episode here. I want to thank you for joining me today, and also encourage you to go join my Facebook, Lauren Collins. I just got to say something. Also, you can email me, gotta say something 21 at gmail.com. My subreddit is r slash just gotta say something. And you can find me for audio only listeners on Anchor, Spotify, Pandora, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, any of your favorite platforms. I would appreciate if you leave me a rating, subscribe to it. And if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel, share and like this video, and leave me a comment. I always try to respond. And also, hit the notification bell so you know that every time that I upload a new video. Please also go check out the Scott Ford Show and subscribe to his channel. You can check out my interview with him that he uploaded on Saturday. That was a lot of fun. And check out Isaac Hayes, the Cajun Conservative, and his Christian podcast, Brothers Just Searching, and TV's Rob is Unwoke, and The Armored Lutheran. Check all these people out. They're great. You're going to love them. I promise. I want you to have a good rest of your day, and I hope to see you back here tomorrow. Have a good day, and God bless.